It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when I found myself sitting on the floor of my small apartment, surrounded by stacks of old photographs and memories that seemed to whisper the secrets of the past. I was going through the last remnants of my sister Sarah's life, trying to piece together the fragments of her story. The air was thick with nostalgia, and each photo I touched brought back flashes of laughter, shared secrets, and the haunting ache of her absence. As I sifted through the pile, I stumbled upon a dusty, weathered box tucked away in the corner of the closet. It had been my sister's, filled with knickknacks and memorabilia from our childhood. I carefully lifted the lid, and a wave of emotions washed over me. Inside were trinkets from birthdays long gone, letters from friends, and the remnants of a life that had once been vibrant. But it was something else that caught my eye. A folded piece of paper, yellowed with age, peeking out from beneath a stack of faded ticket stubs. I pulled it out and unfolded it cautiously. My heart raced as I read the message scrawled in a hurried, almost frantic handwriting. "The truth is buried where you never looked." What did that mean? My mind raced with possibilities. I felt a chill run down my spine. The last time I had seen Sarah, she had been distant, lost in her thoughts, as if she were searching for something that she couldn't articulate. I couldn't help but wonder if this letter was connected to her disappearance. I needed to know more. That Monday, I took the letter with me to work at the local bookstore. My friend Lisa was my confidant, and I knew she would help me make sense of this cryptic message. As soon as I saw her, I waved her over to the back of the store, where we could talk without interruptions. "Emily, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, her brow furrowing with concern. I took a deep breath and handed her the letter. "I found this in Sarah's old things. It's strange, Lisa. It feels like a clue, but I have no idea what it means." Lisa's eyes widened as she read the note. "This is eerie. Do you think it's connected to her disappearance?" "I have to believe it is. I just wish I knew what it meant," I replied, frustration bubbling in my chest. "I need to investigate. I feel like I'm so close to uncovering something important." "Count me in," she said, determination lighting up her face. "We'll figure this out together. But where do we even start?" I hesitated, my mind racing through the memories of Sarah's last days. "I think I need to go back to her old house. There has to be something there that can help me understand." That evening, I drove to our childhood home, a quaint little house with peeling paint and overgrown hedges. The memories flooded back as I stepped through the front door, the familiar creaking of the floorboards beneath my feet echoing in the stillness. I wandered from room to room, each corner filled with echoes of laughter and warmth, but the weight of grief hung heavily in the air. In Sarah's old bedroom, I felt a pull towards her closet. I knelt down, pushing aside a few old shoes, and noticed a loose floorboard. My heart raced as I pried it open, revealing a small space beneath. Inside, I found a dusty journal. The cover was worn, but I recognized it immediately as Sarah's. I flipped through the pages, my heart pounding as I read her carefully penned words. She had written about her life, her dreams, and her fears. But as I read on, the tone shifted. "I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong," one entry began. "There are whispers about Laura's death, and I can't help but feel that there's more to the story. The Thompsons, they're hiding something." I gasped, my hands trembling as I turned the pages. Sarah had been investigating her friend Laura's untimely death, and it seemed she had stumbled upon something sinister. "I need to know the truth," she had written. "I can't let this go. I have to find out what really happened." A wave of anger and sadness washed over me. How could this have happened? Why hadn't I noticed that she was in such distress? I felt a knot form in my stomach as I realized that Sarah might have known something dangerous. I couldn't leave it at that. I needed more answers, and the first place I thought to go was Sarah's old school. Maybe someone there could shed light on her investigation. The next day, I returned to town and headed to the high school she had attended. Walking through the familiar halls, I felt a strange mix of nostalgia and dread. I approached a group of students who were chatting near the lockers. "Excuse me," I said, my voice shaky. "I'm looking for information about Sarah Parker." Did she ever mention anything to you about Laura Thompson? One of the girls, a tall blonde with bright blue eyes, looked at me with a mix of curiosity and hesitation. Laura? Yeah, we all knew her. It was a big deal when she died. People said it was an accident, but you know how rumors are. What do you mean? Pressed. There were whispers about a fight before she died. Something between her and Mark Thompson. They were dating, but it got really messy. After Laura died, the Thompsons kind of disappeared from the scene, she explained. Mark Thompson. I remembered Sarah mentioning his name in passing, but I had never paid much attention. Do you think there's a connection? I asked. Maybe. I heard that Sarah was digging into it. She was always asking questions around town. I think some people were worried about what she might find, the girl replied, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Thank you, I said, my heart racing. It seemed that Sarah had been much closer to uncovering something significant than I had realized. I needed to talk to Mark Thompson. After gathering my thoughts, I decided to drive to the Thompson residence. As I approached their house, an unsettling feeling washed over me. The Thompsons had always been considered the affluent family in town, their legacy intertwined with the land. But the air around their home felt heavy, as if it held secrets that had long been buried. When I knocked, I was surprised when Mark opened the door. He looked older than I remembered, his expression a mix of surprise and curiosity. Emily Parker? What brings you here? He asked, his tone friendly enough, but I could sense an underlying tension. Hi, Mark. I was hoping to talk to you about Sarah, I said, trying to keep my composure. I found something, a letter. It made me think that she was investigating something important before she disappeared. Mark's expression shifted slightly. Sarah? She was always digging into things. What did the letter say? It said something about the truth being buried where I've never looked, I replied, watching his reaction closely. I need to know if you know anything about her investigation into Laura's death. He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. Look, Emily, Sarah was involved with a group of friends who liked to party. There were things happening that she might not have understood fully. But I promise, she wasn't in any danger from me or my family. Then what happened on the night she disappeared? I pressed, frustration boiling over. Mark looked away, his jaw clenched. That night, something felt off. Sarah left early from a party we were having. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now, I wonder if she saw something she shouldn't have. My heart raced. Saw something? What do you mean? He sighed, his gaze shifting to the ground. I can't explain it all right now, but I think Sarah was onto something big, something that involved both our families. I wish I could have done more to help. I could feel the tension thickening in the air. Mark seemed genuine, but a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that he was holding back. I needed to dig deeper, but I didn't want to push him too hard. After all, he could be the key to unlocking the mystery of Sarah's disappearance. Do you have any idea where she might have gone? I asked softly. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something, fear, perhaps. If she was really digging into things, she might have gone to places that are best left in the past. But I don't know where to tell you to look. I wish I could help you more, he said, his voice trailing off. As I left the Thompson house, I felt a mix of frustration and determination. Mark's words echoed in my mind. Places best left in the past. I had to find out what that meant. I couldn't let my sister's memory fade into the shadows, not when there were still unanswered questions lingering in the air. Later that night, I sat on my bed, the letter and Sarah's journal spread out before me. I felt a surge of determination. I had to uncover the truth, whatever it took. As darkness settled outside my window, I knew that my search had only just begun. As I sat on the floor of my dimly lit apartment, surrounded by the familiar scent of old books and dusty memories, I felt a pang of nostalgia wash over me. I had decided to revisit the box of keepsakes that held remnants of my life with my sister, Sarah. Each photograph I pulled from the box told a story, encapsulating moments of laughter, joy, and the occasional tear. Our childhood felt like a dream I could barely grasp, but it was the memories that kept Sarah alive in my heart. As I sifted through the photographs, my fingers brushed against something unusual. A letter tucked away in the corner of the box. It had a simple, unmarked envelope, and curiosity piqued. I opened it. My heart raced as I read the message scrawled inside. "The truth is buried where you never looked." The words sent chills down my spine, echoing in my mind long after I had read them. What truth? What had Sarah hidden away? I held the letter tightly, my thoughts swirling. I needed to talk to someone about this, someone who could help me make sense of it all. The next day at work, I approached my friend and colleague, Lisa, during our lunch break. I laid the letter in front of her, watching her expression shift from confusion to alarm. "Emily, this is unsettling. Have you thought about what this could mean?" she asked, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. "I can't shake the feeling that it's connected to Sarah's disappearance," I replied, feeling the weight of my words. "I need to find out what she was trying to tell me." Lisa leaned in closer, her eyes wide with determination. "We have to investigate, together. I want to help you figure this out." Her enthusiasm ignited a spark of hope within me. Maybe together we could uncover the secrets that had been buried for far too long. As the day wore on, I couldn't focus on anything but the letter. My mind raced with questions and possibilities. What had Sarah found? Who could have sent this message? Just as I was about to leave work, my phone rang. The caller ID was unknown, sending a thrill of apprehension through me. I answered, my heart pounding. "Hello," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Emily?" A voice whispered on the other end, but before I could grasp the meaning, the line crackled and went dead. I stared at my phone, the silence deafening. What had they wanted to say? My determination to uncover the truth intensified. I needed to find out what had happened to Sarah, and I was prepared to face whatever dangers lay ahead. That evening, I made my way to our childhood home, a place that held so many memories. As I stepped through the door, the familiar creaks of the floorboards greeted me, but an unsettling feeling settled in my stomach. I had always cherished this house, but now it felt like a tomb, holding secrets I was desperate to uncover. I began my search in the attic, a space filled with the echoes of our past. Dust particles danced in the beam of light filtering through the small window as I rummaged through old boxes. It was there, beneath a pile of forgotten toys, that I stumbled upon something unexpected. Sarah's diary. My heart raced as I opened it, the pages yellowed and fragile. The first few entries were filled with mundane details of high school life, but as I read on, the tone shifted. Sarah's handwriting grew frantic, her words filled with anxiety. She wrote about her concerns regarding Laura, her friend who had recently passed away under mysterious circumstances. "There's something off about her death," one entry read. "I can't shake the feeling that it wasn't an accident." My heart sank. What had Sarah discovered? The diary hinted at a deeper investigation, a thread that connected Laura's death to something more sinister. I needed to learn more. As I continued reading, I found a passage that made my blood run cold. The Parker and Thompson families have been at odds for generations. I think there's a connection between them and Laura's death. I need to dig deeper. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The long-standing rivalry between the Parkers and the Thompsons, a feud that had simmered beneath the surface of our small town, was somehow tied to Sarah's disappearance. I had to talk to someone who knew more about this. The next day, I ventured to Sarah's school, hoping to speak with her former classmates. The hallways were filled with the sounds of laughter and excitement, but I felt out of place, like an intruder in a world that had moved on without her. I approached a group of students who had hung out with Sarah, my heart pounding as I introduced myself. "Hi, I'm Emily, Sarah's sister. I was wondering if you could help me with something," I said, trying to sound casual. One girl, Jenna, looked at me with a mix of sympathy and apprehension. "We were all really worried about Sarah. She was acting strange before." "You know, strange how?" I pressed, eager for any information. She started talking about the Thompsons a lot. She thought they were hiding something, especially after Laura's death. There was this tension between the families, you know? It always felt like it was going to explode, Jenna replied, her voice low. I nodded, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. Did she ever mention any specific incidents? Jenna hesitated, glancing around as if afraid someone might overhear. There was this party. Sarah left early, but she said something happened that night. Something she couldn't explain. I think she was trying to figure it out. I felt a sense of urgency wash over me. The pieces were starting to align, but I needed to know more about that party. Do you know where it was? I need to find out what happened. Yeah, it was at Mark Thompson's house, Jenna said quietly, her eyes darting away. Mark Thompson. The name rang a bell. He was a familiar face from our childhood, but I hadn't seen him in years. I made a mental note to visit the Thompsons. If anyone had answers, it would be him. Later that evening, I stood outside the Thompson house, my heart racing as I prepared to knock on the door. The memories of the rivalry between our families flooded my mind, but I pushed them aside. I was here for answers, nothing more. As the door opened, I was greeted by Mark Thompson, his expression surprisingly warm. Emily Parker? It's been a long time, he said, his tone casual, but I detected a hint of tension underlying his friendliness. Mark, I need to talk to you about Sarah, I said, cutting straight to the point. She was looking into Laura's death, and I think it's connected to something bigger. His expression shifted slightly, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. I know Sarah was concerned about Laura. She mentioned it to me a few times. Can you tell me what you know about that night? The party? I pressed, feeling the weight of my urgency. Mark shifted uncomfortably. There was definitely something strange that night. Sarah left early, but there were rumors about what happened afterward. Some people said they saw something that shouldn't have been there. What do you mean? I asked, my curiosity piqued. He hesitated, and I could see he was weighing his options. Look, I can't say much without getting myself in trouble, but just know that Sarah was involved with a group that went beyond just the usual high school parties. There were things happening that were dangerous. Dangerous how? I pressed, frustration creeping into my voice. Emily, you need to understand. This is a small town, and some things are better left buried. The rivalry between our families goes back generations. It's not just kids throwing parties anymore. It's serious, he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. I felt a chill run down my spine. The more I learned, the more I realized how deep the secrets ran. But I can't just walk away. I need to know what happened to Sarah. Mark looked at me, his expression softening. I want to help, but you have to be careful. There are people who don't want the truth to come out. Just think about your safety. As I left the Thompson house, my mind raced with questions. I had come seeking answers, but all I had found was more mystery and danger. The feeling of being watched settled into the pit of my stomach, and I couldn't shake the sense that I was being followed. I was getting closer to the truth, but with each revelation, I felt the weight of the past pressing down on me. I couldn't turn back now. I had to find Sarah and uncover the secrets that had haunted our families for far too long. As I drove through the familiar streets of my childhood, a sense of nostalgia washed over me. The trees lining the sidewalks were the same, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze, whispering secrets that I could no longer decipher. My heart raced as I approached the Thompson house. The mission was clear: uncover the truth about Sarah's disappearance. I parked my car in front of the imposing structure, its white paint peeling slightly at the edges, a stark contrast to the vibrant memories I held of the place. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out and approached the door. With each step, I felt the weight of my sister's absence pressing down on me, urging me forward. When the door swung open, I was met with the boyish charm of Mark Thompson. He stood there with a slight smile, one that was both welcoming and slightly guarded. Emily Parker, he said, his voice smooth. It's been a while. Mark, I replied, forcing a smile in return. I'm here to ask you about Sarah. His expression shifted, the warmth fading slightly as he leaned against the doorframe. I heard she's been missing. I can't imagine how hard this must be for you. Yeah, it's been tough, I admitted, trying to read his demeanor. I found some things that suggest she was involved with your crowd. The parties, the secrets. Mark's brow furrowed slightly, and he stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter. Come in. We can talk. As I crossed the threshold, memories of Sarah rushed back. The laughter, the joy we shared in this house during countless family gatherings. But now it felt different, tainted by uncertainty. We moved to the living room, where the air felt thick with unspoken words. Sarah was always the adventurous type, Mark began, running a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture that caught my attention. She got involved with a group of friends. They threw some wild parties. I think she was searching for something. Searching for what? I pressed, unable to shake the feeling that he was holding back. I don't know, but she did mention something strange about one party in particular. She left early that night, and I've always wondered what happened. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? Strange how? Mark hesitated, his eyes darting away as if he were weighing his words carefully. There were rumors, whispers about things that happened there. I just didn't think it was serious. Rumors, I echoed, feeling the tension in the air thicken. What kind of rumors? He took a deep breath, clearly struggling with what to reveal. Some said that things didn't go right that night. There were arguments, fights. I think Sarah sensed something was off and decided to leave. But I never found out what exactly happened after she left. Did you see her leave? I asked, my heart racing. No, he admitted, a hint of regret in his voice. I was inside, but when I came out, she was gone. The silence that followed felt heavy. I could sense the weight of unspoken truths hanging between us. Mark, I need you to be honest with me. Did something happen to Sarah that night? Do you know more than you're letting on? He shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping to the floor. I wish I knew. I really do. But it's been years, and I don't want to say anything that might. I just don't want to make things worse. What could be worse than not knowing where she is? I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. He looked up, his expression one of genuine concern. I don't want to put you in danger. There are things about our families that are complicated. You need to be careful. Complicated. I repeated, my curiosity piqued. What do you mean? Before he could respond, I noticed a flicker of movement outside the window. I turned my head just in time to see a shadow dart past. Did you see that? I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. Mark followed my gaze, his brow furrowing. What? No, I didn't see anything. Someone just walked by. I insisted. I don't know. It felt like someone was watching us. Mark's expression turned serious. Maybe we should move this conversation somewhere safer. Where? I asked, still feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on me. Let's go to my garage. It's more private, and we can talk without anyone overhearing us. I nodded, feeling a mixture of anxiety and determination. As we walked towards the garage, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being followed. The air felt charged, as if the very walls held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Once inside the garage, Mark closed the door and turned to me. All right, what do you want to know? Everything, I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I need to know what really happened to Sarah and what role you played in it. He ran a hand through his hair again, a sign of his nerves. I didn't play a role in anything bad, Emily. I liked Sarah. We were friends. But the more I found out, the more I realized how deep the rabbit hole goes. Deep how? I pressed, sensing that he was on the verge of revealing something significant. There are things about my family and yours that they're intertwined in ways you can't imagine. Rivalries, secrets, things that were buried a long time ago. My heart raced. What kind of secrets? I can't say for sure, but I know there were whispers about a tragedy involving our families. It's been a shadow over both of us for years. Why didn't you say anything before? I asked, feeling the anger rise within me. Because I was scared. I still am, Mark exclaimed, his voice rising. You have no idea what we're dealing with here. The last thing I want is for you to get hurt. Then help me, I pleaded, desperation creeping into my voice. Help me find the truth about Sarah. She deserves that. He took a deep breath, his expression softening. I'll do what I can, but you need to promise me you'll be careful. This isn't just about us anymore. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. We were standing on the precipice of something dangerous, and I was determined to leap into the unknown. As we stood there, the walls of the garage closing in around us, I realized that every answer we uncovered could lead us further into a web of secrets that had the power to change everything. Let's start with the party, I said, my resolve strengthening. We need to find out who else was there and what they know. Agreed, Mark said, his eyes locking onto mine with a newfound determination. But we need to be smart about this. If there are people who want to keep this buried, they won't hesitate to do whatever it takes to protect their secrets. Then we'll move carefully, I replied, feeling a surge of adrenaline. For Sarah, he echoed, and together we stepped back out into the world, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. I stood in my childhood bedroom, the familiar scent of old books and dust filling the air. My heart raced as I rummaged through a box of old photographs, each one a reminder of the bond one shared with my sister, Sarah. The memories flooded back, and I felt a mix of nostalgia and sorrow. Sarah had always been the adventurous one, full of life and dreams. But now she was gone, leaving me with nothing but questions. As I sifted through the mementos, something caught my eye, a letter, folded and yellowed with age. The handwriting was unfamiliar. I unfolded it carefully, my pulse quickening as I read the cryptic message. The truth is buried where you never looked. A chill ran down my spine. What truth? What had Sarah discovered before she disappeared? My mind raced with possibilities. I needed to talk to someone, to share this with someone who would understand. At work the next day, I found Lisa in the break room, her laughter echoing off the walls. I approached her, trying to suppress the urgency I felt. Hey, Lisa, can I show you something? She looked up, intrigued. Sure, what is it? I handed her the letter, watching her expression shift from curiosity to alarm as she read the words. Emily, this is unsettling. Are you okay? I don't know. I found it in a box of Sarah's things. What if it means something? What if it's a clue? Lisa leaned in closer, her eyes wide. We should investigate. You can't just let this go. What if it leads to answers about Sarah? Her enthusiasm ignited a fire within me. You're right. I can't just sit back and do nothing. That evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. My heart raced as I answered. Hello. There was only silence on the other end. A heavy, suffocating silence that made my skin crawl. Hello, I repeated, but before I could say anything else, the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my breath quickening. Whoever it was, they were trying to tell me something important. I felt a surge of determination. I had to find out what happened to Sarah. The next morning, I made my way to our childhood home. Each step felt heavier than the ultimo. The memories of laughter and joy were mixed with the shadows of loss. I searched the house, hoping to find anything that might give me a clue. As I explored, I stumbled upon a loose floorboard in Sarah's old bedroom. My heart raced as I pried it open, revealing a small, dust-covered diary. I opened it, my hands trembling. The pages were filled with Sarah's neat handwriting, but the words sent chills down my spine. She had been investigating the death of her friend, Laura. I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this than what everyone says. One entry read. My heart sank. Sarah had suspected foul play. I had to know more. I left the house, my mind racing with thoughts of Laura. I recalled the whispers at school about the rivalry between the Parker and Thompson families. It had always been a topic of hushed conversations, a dark cloud hanging over our small town. I decided to visit Sarah's old school, hoping to talk to her former classmates. As I entered the familiar hallways, the echoes of laughter and chatter surrounded me, but they felt distant and foreign. I approached a group of girls who had been friends with Sarah. They looked at me with a mix of recognition and pity. "Emily, right? Sarah's sister?" One of them asked, her voice softening. "Yes, I'm trying to find out what happened to her, and I was hoping you could help," I said, my voice steady despite the fluttering in my chest. They exchanged glances before one of them spoke up. "We heard Sarah was looking into Laura's death. There was always tension between our families, especially with the Thompsons. It's like a dark cloud over us." "Do you know why?" Pressed. "Just rumors," another girl said. "But people talked about strange things happening, secret parties where things got out of hand. Sarah was always curious, always looking for the truth." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Sarah had been drawn into something dangerous, and I needed to find out more. The Thompsons were the key, I realized. I had to confront them. After gathering my thoughts, I drove to the Thompson residence, a sprawling estate that seemed to loom over the neighborhood. I parked my car and hesitated for a moment, the weight of what I was about to do settling heavily on my shoulders. Taking a deep breath, I knocked on the door. Mark Thompson answered, his expression shifting from surprise to a friendly smile. "Emily, it's been a while. What brings you here?" "Hi, Mark. I need to ask you some questions about Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded, stepping aside to let me in. The interior was lavish, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling in my mind. "Sure, come in. I heard she's been missing. It's terrible. Do you know anything about her last days?" "She was involved with certain people." I hesitated, gauging his reaction. Mark's demeanor changed slightly, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place in his eyes. "She was hanging out with a group of friends. There were parties. But that night, something felt off." "What do you mean?" I pressed, unable to contain my curiosity. He crossed his arms, hesitating. "I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but there were rumors about Laura, things that happened that night. Please, Mark, I need to know. Anything could help me find her," I urged, my voice barely above a whisper. He glanced away, as if weighing his options. "Fine." Sarah left the party early that night. She seemed anxious, like she had seen something she shouldn't have. "What was it? What did she see?" "I don't know. She wouldn't tell me, but I remember she said something about wanting to expose the truth. She mentioned the names Parker and Thompson, like she was connecting dots." My heart raced. "You think it has to do with Laura's death?" "I can't say for sure, but there's a dark history between our families. It's like a never-ending cycle of rivalry," he said, his voice trailing off. I left a little shaken, my head swirling with thoughts. Mark knew more than he let on, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The tension between us was palpable, and it only deepened my resolve to uncover the truth. Arriving home that evening, I felt the weight of my family's secrets pressing down on me. I needed answers, and the only way to get them was to confront my parents. As I sat at the dinner table, I could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. My father glanced at me, his expression guarded. "Is everything okay, Em?" he asked, a hint of concern in his voice. "I need to talk to you about Sarah," I said, my heart pounding. "What really happened? Why did she go missing?" My mother exchanged a worried glance with my father, and I could sense their unease. "It's complicated," my father replied defensively. "Complicated? How?" "Sarah was looking for something, and I need to know what it was." "Emily, you don't understand." My mother interrupted, her voice shaky. "There are things about our past, things that are better left alone. Why are you hiding this from me? I deserve to know," I shouted, the frustration bubbling over. In the heat of the argument, an old box fell from the top of the cupboard, spilling its contents onto the floor. My heart stopped as I noticed a photo among the scattered items. It was a picture of Sarah with a family I didn't recognize, a family that looked oddly similar to the Thompsons. "What is this?" I asked, my voice trembling as I picked it up. "Who são essas pessoas?" My parents exchanged looks of panic, and I felt a surge of anger. "You've been keeping secrets from me. Just tell me the truth." "Emily, please." my father said, his tone softer now. There are things from our past that we thought it was best to protect you from. But you're only making it worse. I need to know if Sarah's life is in danger. I pressed, my voice breaking. She was obsessed with uncovering the truth about Laura. My mother finally admitted, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. We feared for her safety. The rivalry between our families is deeper than you can imagine. Desperation clawed at me. If they were hiding this, what else were they concealing? What did they know about Sarah's investigation? I felt a sense of urgency to dig deeper, to unearth the buried truths that everyone seemed so intent on hiding. The air in my apartment felt heavy as I sifted through the memories of my sister Sarah. Each photo I uncovered was a reminder of the laughter and joy we once shared, but also of the shadows that had crept into our lives since her disappearance. I opened a box filled with trinkets, letters, and photographs that smelled faintly of time. That was when I spotted it. A folded letter, yellowed with age, hidden beneath a tattered scarf. I pulled it out, my heart racing. The message was simple yet haunting. The truth is buried where you never looked. I stared at those words, a chill running down my spine. What truth? What did it mean? I had spent countless hours searching for Sarah and trying to piece together what had happened to her. I felt a surge of determination. I needed to understand this message. I grabbed my phone and texted Lisa, my closest friend. Got something weird. Can we talk? Later that day at work, I showed Lisa the letter. Her brow furrowed as she read it, a look of alarm creeping onto her face. Emily, this is serious. We need to investigate. You can't just sit on this. I know, I replied, my voice shaking slightly. It feels like there's something I'm missing, something right in front of me. Let's dig deeper, she said, her eyes sparkling with resolve. Start with the people who knew her best. Maybe they have insights we don't. As the day wore on, I felt a growing sense of urgency. That evening, as I was sitting on my bed, my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. I hesitated but answered anyway. Hello. Static filled the line before a voice crackled through. Emily, you need to. But before the person could finish, the call dropped, leaving me with a sense of dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was trying to reach out to me, to warn me. My heart raced as I paced the room, my mind racing with possibilities. Who were they? What did they want? More importantly, what had happened to Sarah? The next morning, I returned to the house where we grew up, the place that held so many memories, both good and bad. I hoped it would offer some clues. As I climbed the creaky stairs, a sense of nostalgia washed over me. Each room whispered secrets of our childhood, but it was the attic that called to me. I rummaged through old boxes, dust motes dancing in the air, when I suddenly spotted something beneath the floorboards. My heart pounded as I pried it loose. It was Sarah's diary. I flipped through the pages, my breath hitching as I read her handwriting. It was filled with her thoughts, her dreams, and then, abruptly, it turned darker. There's something about Laura's death that doesn't sit right with me, she had written. I feel like I'm being watched. I have to find out what happened. Laura, a name that sent a jolt through my veins. Laura Thompson, Sarah's childhood friend, had died under mysterious circumstances a few years back. I remembered the rumors swirling around her death, whispers of something sinister. I needed to learn more about Laura and the connection she had with Sarah. I headed to Sarah's old school, determined to talk to her former classmates. As I approached a group, I felt a knot form in my stomach. Hey, do you guys remember Sarah Parker? I asked tentatively. One girl looked up, her face a mix of nostalgia and sadness. Yeah, we do. She was different. A bit obsessed with the rivalry between the Parkers and the Thompsons, especially after Laura died. Rivalry? I probed, my interest peaked. Yeah, it's been going on for generations. The families hate each other over something that happened a long time ago. But Sarah, she was always digging into it, trying to find out what really happened. I went home that day with a whirlwind of thoughts swirling in my mind. The rivalry, the deaths, everything seemed interconnected. I decided to visit the Thompson house, hoping to glean more information. As I approached, my heart raced. I'd never had much interaction with them, but today felt different. I knocked nervously on the door, unsure of what to expect. Mark Thompson answered, his expression surprisingly warm. "Emily, I didn't expect to see you here. What brings you by?" "I was hoping to ask you some questions about Sarah," I said, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. "Sarah?" He hesitated, glancing back into the house. "She was involved with a group of friends who threw some pretty crazy parties. I think she got in over her head." "Crazy parties?" I echoed, recalling Sarah's stories about them. "What do you mean?" "Just, things got out of hand sometimes. I remember one night, something felt off. She left early, and I never found out why." "Do you think something happened to her that night?" I pressed, sensing his reluctance. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice dropping, "but there was definitely something strange in the air. I just wish I could tell you more." After our conversation, I felt uneasy. It was clear Mark was holding back information. I could feel the tension in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the secrets we both were dancing around. It made me wonder what else he knew about that night and how it might tie back to Sarah. Returning home, I confronted my parents about the past. "What do you know about the Thompson family? About Laura's death?" My dad's face turned pale. "Emily, we don't talk about them. You need to drop this." "Why? What are you hiding?" I felt a surge of frustration. Sarah was looking into something, and I need to know what it is. "You don't understand," my mom shouted, a tear rolling down her cheek. "It's complicated. Just let it go." But I couldn't. The pressure was mounting. I rifled through an old cabinet, hoping to find something, anything, that could give me clarity. That was when an old box spilled out onto the floor, revealing a photograph of Sarah with a family I didn't recognize. They looked happy, but the sight of it sent a chill down my spine. "Who são essas pessoas?" I demanded, holding the photo up. "Those are just friends from a long time ago," my dad stammered. "Friends." It didn't feel right. There was something more, and I was going to find out what it was. With my mind racing, I decided to investigate Laura's death further. I needed to understand the connection between her and Sarah. I headed to the local police station, hoping to find any records related to Laura's case. "Can I help you?" asked the officer at the desk, eyeing me with suspicion. "I'm looking for information on Laura Thompson. She died a few years back, and I think her death might be linked to my sister's disappearance." The officer's expression shifted slightly, but he remained tight-lipped. "We don't usually release information on open cases." "Open case?" I echoed, my heart sinking. "You mean it's still unsolved?" "Look, kid, it's a sensitive matter. I can't discuss it without proper authorization." Frustrated, I left the station, feeling as though I had hit a dead end. But I had to keep going. I needed to visit the place where Laura's body was found. The woods were eerily quiet as I made my way to the site. I felt a mix of trepidation and determination as I walked the familiar trails. When I arrived, the area felt heavy with memories. It was hard to believe this was where Laura had lost her life. As I searched the ground, scanning for anything that might provide a clue, something glinted in the underbrush. I bent down and picked up a delicate silver necklace, the charm unmistakably one Laura used to wear. My heart raced. "No way," I whispered, clutching the necklace in my hand. This was not just a coincidence. Just then, I felt a presence behind me. Turning around, I found a figure standing a distance away, watching me intently. My heart raced as I took a step back, suddenly feeling exposed and vulnerable. Who was this person? Did they know what I was uncovering? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed, that someone was intent on keeping the past buried deep beneath the surface. The rain was pouring outside as I sat on my bed, my mind racing with thoughts of what I had uncovered so far. The letter, the diary, the sinister hints dropped by Mark Thompson. All of it felt like pieces of a puzzle I was desperately trying to put together. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that someone was keeping tabs on my every move. I had to be careful, but I couldn't stop now. Not when I was so close to finding the truth about Sarah. As the clock ticked away, I felt a surge of determination wash over me. I needed to speak with Alex, Sarah's ex-boyfriend. Maybe he had insights that could help me unravel this tangled web of secrets. I grabbed my phone and dialed his number, my heart racing with anticipation. "Hey, Emily," he answered, his voice warm but laced with concern. "Is everything okay?" "Not really, Alex. I need to talk to you. It's about Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Is it urgent?" He sounded alert now. "Yeah, it is. Can you meet me at the coffee shop down the street? I'll explain everything when you get here." "On my way," he replied, and I hung up, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. The coffee shop was buzzing with the usual morning crowd, but all I could focus on was the empty seat across from me, waiting for Alex. When he finally walked in, his tall frame and dark hair instantly caught my attention. He spotted me and made his way through the tables, concern etched on his face. "Emily, what's going on?" he asked, sliding into the seat across from me. "I found some things that might help us understand what happened to Sarah," I began, my hands trembling slightly as I pushed my hair behind my ear. "I found her diary, and it talks about her investigating Laura's death." "Laura?" he asked, his brows furrowing. "You mean Laura Thompson? The one who—" "Yeah, the one who died under mysterious circumstances," I interrupted. "Sarah thought there was something more to it, something that connected our families." Alex leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean? What did she find out?" "Just fragments for now. There was a rivalry between the Parkers and the Thompsons that goes back years. I think it might be linked to both Sarah and Laura's disappearances," I explained, trying to keep my voice low to avoid drawing attention. Alex's expression darkened. "That's dangerous territory, Em. You know how heated things can get between those families. If they find out you're digging around—" "I don't care," I snapped, surprising myself with my own intensity. "I need to know what happened to Sarah. I can't let her memory fade away like this. She deserves justice." He studied me for a moment, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. "Okay, I get it, but we need to be careful. What do you want to do?" "I think we should go back to the Thompson house. I have a feeling there's more to uncover there. Mark knows something. I could see it in his eyes," I said, my pulse quickening at the thought of facing Mark again. "All right, but let's be smart about this. We can't just waltz in there. We need a plan," Alex replied, his voice steady and reassuring. "I'll talk to him, ask about Sarah and Laura. Maybe he'll open up if I catch him off guard," I suggested, my mind racing with possibilities. Alex nodded, but I could see the worry etched on his face. "Just promise me you'll be careful. If anything feels off, we get out of there. No heroics. Okay?" "I promise," I said, though I knew I couldn't make any guarantees. The thirst for answers was consuming me, and I felt an urgency that I couldn't ignore. As we left the coffee shop, the rain had eased to a light drizzle, and I felt a chill creep down my spine. The closer we got to the Thompson house, the more my stomach twisted in knots. Would Mark be cooperative, or would he try to scare us off like he had before? When we arrived at the Thompson house, I could feel the tension in the air. It loomed over us like a dark cloud, and I took a deep breath before stepping onto the porch. I knocked on the door, my heart racing, and a moment later, Mark answered, his expression unreadable. "Emily?" he said, surprise flickering in his eyes. "What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. It's important," I said, my voice steady despite the nerves swirling inside me. "About what?" He glanced at Alex, clearly wary of our presence. "About Sarah," I replied, watching his reaction closely. Mark's posture shifted slightly, and I could see the tension in his shoulders. "I don't think there's anything more to say about her. You should just let it go." "That's not going to happen," I shot back, feeling a surge of defiance. "You know something, and I need you to tell me what it is." He hesitated, his eyes darting to the side as if weighing his options. "Look, I don't want any trouble. Just It's best if you leave things alone. Why? I pressed, taking a step forward. What happened at that party? What did Sarah find out? Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. You really want to know? Fine. But you won't like what you hear. Try me, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. Sarah was digging into things she shouldn't have. He began, his voice low. That night, there was a fight between some people, and it got out of hand. Sarah saw something she wasn't supposed to. What did she see? I urged, desperate for answers. He looked at me, his eyes shadowed with something I couldn't quite place. I can't tell you everything. Just know that it was messy and dangerous. There are people who don't want this getting out. Dangerous how? Alex interjected, his tone sharp. Mark narrowed his eyes at him. This isn't some game. You think you can just walk in here and play detective? People have gone missing because of this. You don't understand the stakes. Then help us understand, I pleaded, feeling the weight of his words. We're not here to make trouble. I just want to find my sister. He hesitated, the conflict evident in his expression. Look, I don't know where she is, but if she's involved in this, you need to back off. It's not safe. Not safe, I echoed, frustration bubbling inside me. You think I'm just going to walk away? I need to know what happened. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, Emily, he said, his voice strained. Not for me, I shot back, the anger spilling over. You think I'm going to pretend everything is fine while my sister is out there? Mark's expression shifted, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of something. Fear, perhaps? Just be careful. I can't protect you if you keep poking around. Protect me? I laughed bitterly. You're not in a position to protect anyone. If you know something, you need to tell me. His gaze dropped to the floor, and I could see the struggle in his eyes. I can't. I just can't. Then what good are you? I spat, frustration boiling over. Emily, let's go, Alex said, placing a hand on my shoulder. This isn't getting us anywhere. No, I want to know, I insisted, shaking off his grip. You can't just drop a bomb like that and expect me to walk away. Mark looked between us, his expression torn. You think you're ready for the truth? You have no idea what lies beneath. Then tell me, I pleaded, my voice rising with desperation. Enough, he snapped, his voice cutting through the tension. You don't understand the risks involved. Just walk away while you still can. I took a step back, grappling with the emotions swirling within me. You think I can just walk away? Can't, Mark. Not now. Then you're making a mistake, he warned, his voice barely above a whisper. I turned to Alex, who was watching me with concern. We should go, he said softly. No, I said, shaking my head. I need to know. I need to know everything. Mark sighed deeply, his face clouded with regret. You have no idea what you're getting into, Emily. But if you're determined, just be careful. There are things that are better left buried. With those words, I felt the weight of his warning settle over me like a shroud. What had I gotten myself into? I glanced at Alex, who looked equally troubled. And in that moment, I realized that the truth could be more dangerous than I ever imagined. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the room as I sat at my desk, surrounded by scattered papers and the remnants of my investigation. Alex and I had spent the last few days piecing together the fragments of Sarah's life, trying to decipher the tangled web of secrets that seemed to engulf her disappearance. The revelation that our families were intertwined in a history of rivalry sent chills down my spine. I pulled out the documents we had found earlier, hoping they would shed more light on the dark paths we were navigating. Emily, look at this, Alex said, interrupting my thoughts. He pointed at a faded newspaper clipping we had uncovered in the depths of the town archives. This article talks about an accident that happened years ago. It involved the Parkers and the Thompsons. It's all connected. I can feel it. I moved closer, peering at the yellowed paper. The accident, it mentions a fire at the Thompson residence. A child died, and it was said to be caused by negligence on the part of the Parkers. My voice trembled slightly as I read the words, a knot tightening in my stomach. This could be the catalyst for the rivalry, Alex. It all makes sense now. He nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. If Sarah and Laura were digging into this, what if they found something that someone didn't want exposed? Something that could ruin both families? I swallowed hard, the weight of the implications settling heavily on my shoulders. We need to find out what happened to Laura. If there's a connection between her death and Sarah's disappearance, we might uncover the truth about why they were both targeted. Let's go to the library tomorrow, Alex suggested. We can search for more articles, any records about the fire or the investigation that followed. There has to be something more out there. I nodded, my determination solidifying. And we should also revisit Laura's family. They might have information or clues that we haven't considered. As we discussed our plans, a chill ran down my spine when I remembered the anonymous letter I had found in Sarah's box of memories. Do you think the message, "The truth is buried where you've never looked," could refer to this accident? I mused aloud. It's possible, Alex replied thoughtfully. If both girls were close to uncovering something significant, it could be where we need to focus our attention. Then let's not waste any time, I said, rising from my chair. We need to figure out if this accident is the key to everything. I can't shake the feeling that we are being watched, though. Ever since we started this investigation, I feel like someone's keeping tabs on us. Alex glanced out the window, the fading light casting shadows across the room. I felt it too. We need to be careful. Whoever is hiding something won't hesitate to do whatever it takes to keep their secrets buried. The next day dawned gray and overcast, mirroring the unease that clung to me as we made our way to the local library. The musty smell of aged paper filled the air as we entered, and I felt a sense of nostalgia wash over me. I had spent many afternoons here as a child, lost in stories that transported me far away from our small town's troubles. I had never imagined I would be back here, searching for the truth behind my sister's disappearance. We split up, Alex heading to the archives while I searched through the clippings in the local history section. As I flipped through the pages, I uncovered more articles about the fire. Each piece I read revealed the deep-rooted animosity between our families. The Parkers were painted as the villains, while the Thompsons were portrayed as the victims. It was a narrative that had been carefully crafted over the years, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was only part of the story. Emily, Alex called from across the room, excitement lacing his voice. I hurried over to where he was standing, a stack of documents spread out before him. You need to see this. What did you find? I asked, leaning closer to examine the papers. He held up an old police report. This is the investigation report from the fire. It mentions witnesses who saw suspicious activity near the Thompson house the night before it happened. I searched his face, my heart racing. What kind of activity? People arguing, shouting, and it names a few individuals, including someone from the Parker family. His voice dropped to a whisper. It looks like this rivalry goes deeper than we thought. Who? I pressed, my curiosity piqued. He scanned the report again. It doesn't say who exactly, just that there was tension between the families leading up to the fire. But it's enough to suggest there's more to this story. Then we need to find out who was involved, I said, feeling a sense of urgency. If we can connect the dots, maybe we can figure out why Sarah wanted to expose this truth. Alex nodded, determination fueling his resolve. Let's head to Laura's family. They might remember things differently, especially if they were affected by the accident. We drove to the quiet neighborhood where Laura's family lived. The atmosphere was somber, the air thick with unspoken grief. As we approached their home, I felt a mixture of dread and hope. Would they be willing to talk to us about their daughter? Would they trust us enough to share their pain? I knocked on the door, my heart pounding in my chest. After a few moments, a woman in her late 40s answered. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she looked weary, as if the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft yet weary. "Mrs. Martinez?" I ventured, unsure if I should introduce myself. "I'm Emily Parker, and this is Alex. We're looking into some things regarding Laura." We were hoping you might be willing to talk to us." Her expression shifted, a flicker of recognition crossing her face before it hardened. "I don't know if I can help you. It's been a long time since she's been gone. We understand how painful this is," Alex interjected gently, "but we believe there might be connections between Laura's death and my sister's disappearance. We just want to uncover the truth." Mrs. Martinez hesitated, her gaze drifting to the ground. The truth? It's a painful thing to face. Laura was a bright girl, full of life. She had her plans, her dreams. And then, her voice broke, and she took a shuddering breath. Then everything changed. I felt a surge of empathy for her. "We're not here to hurt you. We're just trying to understand what happened. Anything you could share would be invaluable." She stepped back, allowing us into her home. The living room was filled with framed photographs of Laura, smiling brightly at various stages of her life. It felt like an altar to a life cut short. "Please sit," she said, gesturing to the couch. "I'll tell you what I can, but it won't be easy." As we settled into the plush cushions, she began to recount the events leading up to Laura's death. She had been acting strangely in the weeks before. She mentioned something about a secret she was planning to expose, but she was vague about the details. I thought she was just being dramatic. You know how teenagers can be. "Did she say anything about Sarah?" I asked, leaning forward. "They were close friends, right?" "Yes." Mrs. Martinez nodded, her brow furrowing. "They were inseparable. But I remember Laura mentioning Sarah's name more frequently as the days went by. She said they were working on something important, something that could change everything." "Did Laura ever mention Mark Thompson?" Alex asked, his voice steady but probing. She hesitated before answering, her gaze drifting to a photo of Laura on the wall. "She did, actually. She said he had been acting strangely, too. She didn't trust him but felt drawn to him for some reason. It was confusing for her." I exchanged a glance with Alex. "Do you think there was something between them?" "Maybe, but it was complicated," Mrs. Martinez replied, her voice thick with emotion. "Laura had a way of getting involved in things she shouldn't have. I always worried about her. I just wish I had done more to protect her." "Mrs. Martinez, your daughter was brave," I said, my heart aching for her. "She was trying to uncover something, and we believe that might have cost her life. We need to find out what she was hiding." Tears brimmed in her eyes, and she shook her head. "I don't know if I can help you with that. The pain of losing Laura is still fresh. I don't want to reopen old wounds. But we need to know," I pressed gently. "If there's a chance this could help us find Sarah, wouldn't you want to do that? To honor Laura's memory." She took a deep breath, her shoulders trembling. "You're right. I do want to honor her. Just promise me that you'll be careful. There are things in this town that people don't want uncovered." "We promise," Alex assured her. "We'll be careful." Mrs. Martinez nodded, her expression softening as she began to share more details about Laura's final days. She was obsessed with the idea that the truth about the accident was buried somewhere. She believed it was linked to something more sinister between the families. "Did she ever mention where she thought it might be?" I asked, my mind racing with possibilities. She mentioned an old The Weight of Truth hung heavy in the air as I stood in the living room, facing my parents. Their expressions were a mix of fear and defiance, and I could feel the tension crackling like static electricity. I had confronted them before about Sarah, but this time felt different. I needed answers, and I was done tiptoeing around the past. "Why won't you just tell me the truth?" I demanded, my voice trembling with the intensity of my emotions. "You know something about what happened to Sarah, don't you?" My mother's gaze shifted to the floor, and my father clenched his jaw tightly. "Emily, this isn't the time," he said, his voice low and steady, but I could hear the underlying strain. "It's exactly the time. Sarah is missing. I found her diary, and I know she was onto something. You both need to stop lying to me." My heart raced as the words tumbled out. I felt like a volcano about to erupt, and I had no intentions of holding back. "What do you think you know?" My father shot back, his voice rising. "You don't understand the complexities of this family. There are things better left buried. I scoffed, incredulous. Better left buried? You mean like Sarah? Just tell me what you're hiding. The air grew thick with the unspoken truths that had been festering for years. My mother finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. We're trying to protect you, Emily. The past is a dangerous place to dwell. Protect me? From what? From the truth. I felt the walls of my childhood home closing in on me, suffocating me. You're only protecting yourselves. If Sarah was right about the Thompsons, if there's something sinister going on, don't you think I have a right to know? My father's expression hardened, and he took a step closer. You don't know what you're asking for. We've kept you safe from this for a reason. Before I could respond, a loud crash erupted from the hallway. Startled, we turned to see a box of old photographs tumbling to the ground. My pulse quickened as my mother rushed to pick them up, her face pale. Mom, what was that? I asked, my curiosity piqued. Nothing, just an old box, she stammered, but something about her demeanor told me otherwise. I knelt down to help her, and as I picked up a faded photo, my breath caught in my throat. There was Sarah, smiling brightly at the camera, but next to her stood a family I didn't recognize. They looked familiar yet foreign, their faces etched with a sense of unease. Who are they? I demanded, holding up the photo. Why is Sarah with them? My mother's face drained of color as she snatched the photo from my hands. Emily, put that down. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter? It matters to me. I felt a surge of anger mixed with confusion. How could they keep something like this from me? You need to tell me who they are. You're being unreasonable, my father said, his voice rising again. You're too young to understand the implications of this. I'm not a child anymore. I deserve to know about my sister and what she was involved in. My mother's hands trembled as she held the photo. That family, they were part of a dark chapter in our lives. It's complicated. Complicated how? Tell me. I pressed, desperate for clarity. She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. They were friends of Sarah, but there were rumors, bad rumors. We thought we could protect her by distancing her from them. From what? What did they do? I felt my heart racing, the urgency of the situation wrapping around me like a vice. Emily, please, my father said, his voice softening. You need to let this go. It's not your fight. No, I shouted. It is my fight. I won't let you bury this. I won't let you keep me in the dark. In that moment, I felt a surge of determination. I would find out the truth, even if it meant digging through the past that my parents were so keen on hiding. I turned on my heel, ready to storm out. I'm going to the Thompson house. I need to find out what they know. Emily, wait. My mother called after me, but I didn't stop. I had to go. I had to uncover the secrets that were threatening to suffocate me. As I drove through the familiar streets of my childhood, the weight of the past pressed down on me. The houses seemed to loom larger, their shadows stretching ominously as I approached the Thompson residence. Memories of Sarah flooded my mind. Her laughter, her carefree spirit, the way she always seemed to know something I didn't. I parked my car in front of their house, heart racing with a mix of fear and resolve. The last time I had been here, everything felt normal. But now, knowing what I did, the air was thick with unspoken tension. I approached the door and knocked, my knuckles rapping against the wood. After a moment, it swung open to reveal Mark Thompson, his expression betraying a mix of surprise and wariness. Emily? He asked, clearly taken aback. What are you doing here? I straightened my shoulders, determined to get the answers I sought. I need to talk to you about Sarah. He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if checking for someone. Now's not a good time, he said, his voice low. I'm not leaving until I get some answers, I insisted, pushing past him into the house. The interior felt colder than I remembered, the shadows lurking in every corner. Emily, seriously. Mark began, but I cut him off. Just tell me what you know about the night she disappeared. I know you were involved with her friends. Something happened, didn't it? He ran a hand through his hair, clearly conflicted. It's complicated. You don't understand what was going on. Try me. I'm not a child anymore, I said, my voice steady, though my heart raced. I found out about the rivalry between our families. I know there's more to the story. Mark took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing as if weighing his words carefully. Sarah was involved with a group that threw these parties, clandestine parties. I thought it was just teenage rebellion, but there was something darker beneath the surface. Darker how? I pressed, feeling the urgency of the moment. There were rumors, he said, his voice lowering further. About drugs, about people going missing. Sarah dug too deep, and I think she found something she shouldn't have. I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean, something she shouldn't have? Did you ever tell her to stop? Mark's expression shifted, guilt washing over his features. I tried. I didn't want her to get involved, but she was determined. She wanted to find out the truth about Laura's death, and I think she was getting close. Laura, I echoed, the name heavy on my tongue. What did she find out? I don't know. She wouldn't tell me everything, but I have a feeling that whatever it was, it tied back to our families. There's a reason why your parents don't want you digging into this. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. I have to know, Mark. I can't just stand by while my sister might be in danger. If you know anything, you have to tell me. He hesitated, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. Emily, you don't understand what you're getting into. This could put you in serious danger. I've already put myself in danger just coming here, I argued. If you know anything, please, just tell me. Mark's shoulders sagged, and he nodded slowly. Okay, I'll tell you what I know, but you have to promise me that you'll be careful. I promise, I said, determination coursing through me. We settled into the living room, the air thick with tension as he began to speak. Sarah was on to something big, something that connected our families in ways we didn't fully understand. She found out about a deal that went wrong years ago, something involving Laura. It was all swept under the rug, but I think she was going to expose it. Expose what? I asked, my mind racing. The truth about the accident. The truth about how our families are connected. It's a mess, Emily. If she had gone public, it could ruin both families. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. What if she didn't just disappear? What if someone made her disappear to keep her quiet? Mark's eyes widened, and the fear in his gaze sent a shiver down my spine. I didn't want to believe it, but there were whispers, people who didn't want the past to resurface. It's why I'm worried about you being here. Then we have to do something, I said, urgency propelling me forward. We can't let this go. I won't let it go. Mark looked torn, but there was something in his eyes that told me he understood the weight of the truth. All right, he said finally, let's find out what we can. But we have to. I sat in the dim light of my apartment, the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders as I replayed the events of the last few days in my mind. Alex and I had uncovered so many secrets about our families, secrets that were buried deep beneath layers of deception and rivalry. The weight of the truth felt heavy, almost suffocating, and I could sense that we were nearing the end of our journey, even if the final destination remained shrouded in darkness. Emily, are you okay? Alex's voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to the present. He was sitting across from me, his brow furrowed with concern. I could tell he was equally affected by the revelations we had uncovered. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I don't know, Alex. It feels like we're on the brink of something big, but I'm scared. I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. Every time we get closer to the truth, it feels like we're stepping into a deeper abyss. I get that, he replied, leaning forward, his expression serious. But we need to keep pushing. We owe it to Sarah, to Laura, and to ourselves. We can't let fear stop us now. I nodded, his determination igniting a spark within me. We had come too far to turn back. You're right. Let's go through the last bits of evidence we have. Maybe there's something we overlooked. We turned our attention to the small table where we had spread out all the documents and photos from our investigation. Among the scattered papers, I spotted the phone that had once belonged to Sarah. It felt like a connection to her, like holding a piece of her essence. With trembling hands, I picked it up, turning it over to examine it. "Do you think there's anything left on it? I mean, it's been through a lot," I remarked, feeling a pang of nostalgia and sadness. "Let's find out," Alex said, taking a seat beside me. He had become my rock in this tumultuous sea of uncertainty, and I was grateful for his presence. He reached for the phone, his fingers dancing over the screen as he tried to unlock it. After a few moments of fiddling, the screen lit up, revealing Sarah's familiar wallpaper. A photo of us together at the beach, laughing under the sun. Felt so far away from where we were now. "Here we go," Alex muttered as he navigated to the video folder. My heart raced with anticipation as he opened it. The screen flickered, and there she was, Sarah, looking vibrant and full of life, yet the tension in her voice was palpable. "Hey, if you're watching this, then something has happened. I need to say a few things. If you're my sister, Emily, or anyone who cares about me, please listen carefully," she began, her eyes darting nervously as if she were afraid of being watched. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding. "What are you trying to tell us, Sarah?" I whispered, almost as if she could hear me. "I've been digging into Laura's death," she continued, her voice shaky, "and I think I've found something. Something that connects everything, the families, the rivalry. It's worse than we thought." She paused, biting her lip. "I can't trust anyone, not even you, Alex. I need to keep this safe." The video cut to a scene of her and Mark, sitting together at one of those clandestine parties. I felt a rush of anger and betrayal. Why was she with him? Did she really trust him? I thought, my heart racing. "Emily, look," Alex said sharply, pointing to the screen. "She's about to say something important." I watched, entranced, as Sarah leaned closer to the camera, her expression serious. "Mark knows more than he lets on. There was a fight that night. I'm starting to think Laura's death wasn't an accident. We have to expose the truth before it's too late." The video ended abruptly, leaving us in stunned silence. I felt my breath hitch in my throat. What did she mean by that? What fight? What truth? My mind whirled with questions. Alex's face was pale, a mix of concern and determination etched across his features. "We need to confront the Thompsons. If there's any chance Mark knows something, we have to find out what it is." I nodded, my heart pounding in agreement. "But we need to be careful. If they're involved in something sinister, we can't just walk in there unprepared." "Right?" he replied, running a hand through his hair, a sign of his own anxiety. "Let's gather everything we have and come up with a plan." We spent the next hour combing through the documents, piecing together timelines and connections. As we worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us. I glanced out of the window, but the street below was quiet, the shadows stretching long as the sun began to set. "Emily, do you think our families are connected beyond just the Thompson-Parker feud?" Alex asked, breaking the silence. I sighed, leaning back in my chair. "I think they are. There are too many coincidences. The way my parents reacted when I asked them about the Thompsons, it was like they were hiding something big, especially when you found that photo of Sarah with strangers," he added, his eyes narrowing in concentration. "There's something there, a link we haven't fully uncovered yet. What if these families are intertwined in ways we can't even begin to understand? Like a web of secrets?" I mused, feeling a chill run down my spine. What if this goes deeper than we ever imagined? Just then, my phone buzzed, breaking the tension in the room. I picked it up, and my heart sank when I saw the name flashing on the screen. Mark Thompson. "Should I answer?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe it's a chance to get some answers," Alex replied cautiously, eyes locked on mine. "Okay, but be ready for anything," I warned, pressing the answer button. "Emily," Mark's voice came through, smooth but laced with something I couldn't quite place. "I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk." "What do you want, Mark?" I shot back, trying to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil in my gut. "I know you've been looking into Sarah's disappearance. There are things you need to understand, he said, his tone shifting to something more serious. Meet me tonight, and I'll explain everything. But you need to come alone. Why should I trust you? I snapped, feeling the anger rise within me. Because if you don't, you might never learn the truth about what happened that night, and I can't let you walk into danger, he replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. I exchanged a glance with Alex, who looked just as torn as I felt. I'll think about it, I finally said, my voice firm, but I won't make any promises. Just think about it, Emily. You'll understand soon enough, he replied before hanging up. What did he say? Alex asked, his concern evident. He wants to meet, but he wants me to come alone. He thinks he can help me understand everything, I said, my heart racing. Don't go alone, Emily. It could be a trap, Alex warned, his eyes narrowing. I know, but I need to hear what he has to say. We need to know what we're dealing with, I replied, my determination growing stronger. If there's a chance he knows something about Sarah's disappearance, I can't ignore it. Okay, but we need a plan. If you go, I'll follow you at a distance. We can't let him know we're working together, Alex suggested, his voice steadying me. I nodded, knowing deep down that this was the only way to uncover the truth. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I felt a sense of foreboding settle in my chest. Whatever lay ahead would change everything, but I was ready to face it head-on. For Sarah, for Laura, and for the secrets that demanded to be unearthed. The tension hung thick in the air as Alex and I approached the Thompson house. Each step felt like it echoed the pounding of my heart. I had waited so long for this moment, but now that it was here, a sense of dread settled deep in my stomach. I glanced at Alex, whose face mirrored my own anxiety. Are you ready for this? He asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. No, I admitted, my voice trembling. But we have to know the truth. For Sarah. We pushed the door open, its creak sounding like a warning bell. The house, once filled with laughter and life, felt cold and hollow, shadows lurking in every corner. As we stepped inside, I called out, Mark, are you here? My voice seemed to bounce off the walls, only to be swallowed by the silence. Maybe he's not home, Alex suggested, but something in his tone betrayed his uncertainty. We moved deeper into the house, dodging furniture and remnants of a life frozen in time. I could feel my pulse quicken as we approached the living room. The air was thick with tension, and I could sense that something was horribly wrong. Emily, look! Alex pointed toward a darkened hallway. My heart raced as I followed his gaze, and we moved cautiously toward the shadows. Just as we reached the edge of the room, the unmistakable sound of a muffled sobbing reached our ears. Sarah, I called out, my voice trembling with hope and fear. The sobbing stopped abruptly, replaced by a shuffling sound. Sarah, is that you? A figure emerged from the shadows, and I gasped as I recognized her. My sister, but she looked different. Her eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of fear and relief. Emily, she cried, rushing toward me. I enveloped her in my arms, and the warmth of her presence flooded me with hope. I thought I'd never see you again. Sarah, what happened? Where have you been? I pulled back slightly, searching her eyes for answers. I had to do this, Em. I had to disappear, she stammered, her voice hollow. What do you mean? You scared us to death, I exclaimed, my heart aching for the torment she must have endured. I know, but listen, there's so much you don't understand, she said, her voice shaking. I was trying to expose something that could destroy both our families. Alex shifted uncomfortably beside me, his brow furrowing. What do you mean, Sarah? What were you trying to expose? She glanced around as if afraid someone might overhear us. It's about the accident about Laura. It's all connected, and I had to find a way to reveal the truth without putting you or Mom and Dad in danger. Sarah, you could have come to me. We could have figured this out together, I cried, feeling a mix of anger and despair. I couldn't risk it. They were watching me mark my own family. I had to make it look real, to throw them off, she explained, tears streaming down her cheeks. Wait, Alex interrupted, his voice steady but urgent. You're saying Mark was involved? Yes, he's not just a rival. He's part of it. The secrets they've kept. Sarah trailed off, her eyes wide with fear. I thought I could just gather the evidence and present it, but everything spiraled out of control. Where is Mark now? I demanded, feeling a surge of protectiveness for my sister. He's missing, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. I think he realized I was onto him and tried to warn me, but then he just vanished. I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean? Did something happen to him? I don't know, but I think he may have found out something he shouldn't have, Sarah said, looking between us with a mix of fear and determination. We need to find him before it's too late. But how? I asked, my mind racing. If he's in danger, we need to act fast. We can search his room, Sarah suggested, her voice firming with resolve. There must be something there that can lead us to him. Without waiting for a response, she turned and led us toward the stairs. I followed closely, my heart racing as I thought about what we might find. We reached Mark's room, and Sarah pushed the door open, revealing a space that felt eerily still. The air was thick with dust, as if it had been untouched for days. Help me look, Sarah said, her voice low but urgent. We began searching through the room, flipping over clothes and moving boxes. My heart sank as I realized just how little I knew about the people who had been so entangled in my family's life. Over here, Alex called from the corner, pulling out a small box. He opened it to reveal a collection of photographs, old newspaper clippings, and a diary. This might be it. I rushed over to him, my curiosity piqued. What do you have? It looks like Mark was doing some investigating of his own, Alex said, flipping through the pages of the diary. He was keeping track of everything. Sarah's movements, Laura's death, the family feuds. He knew more than he let on. Read it, I urged, desperate for answers. Okay, Alex said, skimming through the pages. Here, he wrote about a meeting with Sarah at the old park. It's dated just days before she disappeared. The park, I echoed, a sense of urgency washing over me. That's where this all started. Exactly. If we hurry, we might find something there. Something that can help us understand what really happened, Sarah urged, her determination igniting a fire in me. We rushed back down the stairs, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Let's go, I said, leading the way out of the house and into the fading light. The park was only a few blocks away, but it felt like an eternity as we raced against the setting sun. When we arrived, the shadows were long, stretching across the open space. Where do we even start? Alex asked, his breath coming in quick bursts. Over there, Sarah pointed toward a large oak tree that stood sentinel in the center of the park. That's where I met Mark last time. As we approached the tree, I felt a chill race down my spine. Stay alert, I warned, scanning our surroundings. The air was thick with tension, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. Sarah knelt down near the base of the tree, brushing away the leaves and dirt. Help me, she said, her voice urgent. We all dropped to our knees, digging into the earth with our hands. After what felt like an eternity, my fingers brushed against something hard. Here, I exclaimed, pulling it out. It was a small metal box, rusted but intact. My heart raced as I opened it, revealing a collection of documents and photographs. Look at this, Sarah said, her voice trembling as she pulled out a faded newspaper clipping. It was an article about the accident that had torn our families apart. This is what I was trying to uncover. What does it say? Alex leaned in closer, his eyes scanning the text. It talks about a cover-up, Sarah explained, her voice shaking. There were witnesses who saw something different from what was reported, something that could change everything. Suddenly, I heard a rustle in the bushes nearby, and my heart dropped. Did you hear that? I whispered, my instincts screaming that we weren't alone. Before we could react, A figure stepped out from the shadows. It was Mark. His face was pale, and his eyes wild with fear. "Get away from her!" he shouted, looking frantic. "Mark!" I exclaimed, stepping back instinctively. "We were looking for you. You shouldn't have come here. They'll find you," he warned, glancing around nervously. "Who will find us?" Pressed. "What's going on?" Mark hesitated, his gaze darting between us. "You don't understand. The truth is more dangerous than you can imagine. They'll do anything to keep it buried." "Who are they?" Alex demanded, stepping forward. "People who would kill to protect their secrets," Mark confessed, his voice trembling. "I didn't want to believe it, but it's true. Our families, they're intertwined in ways you can't imagine." "Show us," Sarah urged, her determination shining through the fear. "If there's a way to expose them, we need to know." Mark took a deep breath, his expression shifting from fear to something akin to resolve. "Fine, but you have to promise to be careful. There's no turning back once you know the truth." As he began to explain, a sense of dread settled over me. This wasn't just about our families anymore. It was about survival, about facing the darkness that had haunted us for so long. And as I looked at Sarah, I knew there was no turning back. "Whatever happens, we stick together," I promised, determination coursing through my veins. "We'll face this together, no matter what."